Peace, family. It's your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. You are watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. I am so excited to be here with y'all. I am so proud to be here tonight with you all as we break down the world's biggest topics, the most intense debates, the most long-standing intellectual battles going on in the world today. We talk about everything going on in today's world, and I am so glad. I'm so glad that you all are joining me tonight. I want to thank everybody who's joining me here on YouTube, but also the folks over on Twitter who are also here in the building with me. It's an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to build with y'all too. If you're on Twitter, you might want to make your way over to YouTube though, so that you can join these conversations, so you can jump into the comment well, so that you can have an actual stake in the conversation in terms of being able to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, tell me where I'm wrong, tell me where I'm crazy, add your comments. We just might read them online. Anyway, a lot is going on in the world today. And the reason why we are delayed in starting is because we were trying, one, we had a guest who canceled at the last minute, but also it's incredibly important. I'm sorry, Maurice. I apologize, brother. I sincerely apologize. I don't like to make people wait at all. It's one of the least favorite things. Life be life, and sometimes. But tonight, I was actually trying to obtain an authorized copy of the footage from NABJ, the National Association of Black Journalists Conference, where Donald Trump showed his ass today. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about all the things tonight on the channel. We got a big show. We got an interesting show. And we got one that once again begins on the campaign trail. As you know, we're less than 100 days from the presidential election. And next week, Vice President Kamala Harris is set to hit the key swing states in the country, except she's not going to be rolling solo anymore. Kamala Harris will be riding along with her running mate, her vice presidential choice, who is, I can't tell you yet, but I do know. I'm 99.9% sure that I know. But anyway, she's going to be interviewing people the next few days. She's going to make an official choice probably this weekend, no later than Monday, I would imagine, because they're going to hold a rally in Philadelphia on Tuesday, August the 6th, which will kick off a 4-day battleground tour. They're going to be in Pennsylvania. They're going to be Michigan. They're going to be in Arizona. They need to be in about 8 states because they need to keep the momentum that they've gained. But that said, we don't officially know again who the choice will be, but we'll likely see them Monday evening or Tuesday morning officially selected. By the way, drop your choices in the chat. Let us know who you think the nominee should be. Who do you think should be the vice presidential choice for Vice President Kamala Harris? Who would you choose? Don't just think about who you like. Think about who can help the campaign win. Because right now, the campaign has a lot of momentum. In the first week after Harris became the presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party, and it looks like that's already going to happen, the campaign, this is interesting, hauled in $200 million. $200 million. And look, Kamala Harris has been at various moments in her political career cold, lukewarm, popular, wildly popular, less popular, unpopular, scapegoat, Teflon. She's been all the things. Well, at this moment, she is riding high. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of love. And when she hits the campaign trail now, I saw her up there with Quavo talking about Donald Trump don't walk it like he talk it. I'm like, okay, she on one now. She's in her groove. She's feeling comfortable. She's feeling happy. Well, here she is on the campaign trail today talking about the really record success that the Harris campaign has had so far in the week and a half that she's been the presumptive nominee.
We have a fight in front of us, and we are the underdogs in this race. We are. But you see, this is a people-powered campaign. Ours is a people-powered campaign. In fact, after I announced my candidacy, we saw the best week of grassroots fundraising in presidential campaign history. And if you go to KamalaHarris.com, you can help us build on that success. Well,
see, that's where I have a few thoughts on that, and I'll share them with you. First, that little addendum, and if you go to KamalaHarris.com, you can build on that success. Look, you got to sell stuff. Look, I stay selling stuff. I stay telling y'all, not selling stuff. I stay telling y'all to join and be members and donate. It's not that. But she had a moment there. She had a moment that for the more charismatic speakers, the more gifted politicians, they would have sealed up perfectly. They would have said, we're a people power campaign. We've broken the records. Thank you. And kept it pushing. You can get back to KamalaHarris.com. But when you punctuated the sentence with that, and I'm not nitpicking. She didn't do anything wrong. But I'm just saying that there's a way that kind of undermined, that's right, the hustle fund. It undermined the kind of power of that soundbite. And it shows the kind of difference between her and, say, Barack Obama, or her and, say, Bill Clinton. It's much more John. She made a John Kerry move there. And so, again, it's a very small thing. Nobody cares. The more important thing is that she has hauled in $200 million in a week. 66% of that $200 million. 66% of that. That's like 100. What is that? Do math real quick. 10, 6, 120, some shit. It's like 130, whatever, right? Y'all get like 150 million. Is from first-time contributors. That means that of the $200 million, and again, that's a record. As she pointed out, that is a record. That is a lot of money for any politician to haul in. 132 million of the 200 million comes from people who didn't give a nickel to Joe Biden. They're first-time contributors. And the moment Joe Biden stepped up and said, I'm choosing Kamala, $132 million came from people who had no intent, or I don't say, I can't speak to the data that way. They had no history in this election cycle of spending money. So you got 200 million and you got 132 of that from people who just were like, look, we didn't rock with Biden, but we rock with you. You got cash coming in. You got people showing up. You haven't heard Donald Trump brag about how he gets all the crowds and Kamala doesn't, like he said about Biden, like he said about Biden the first time, like he said about his Republican counterparts. He knows Kamala's filling up these stadiums. You got Meg Thee Stallion in the building. You got Beyonce doing the soundtrack to you, or her music playing behind your campaign ad. And these artists don't just co-sign everything. She's got pop culture behind her. She's got, Trump has, Lil Pump and Amber Rose. She's got Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Meg Thee Stallion. It's a different. They're not like us. She could very easily say, but she's also getting endorsements from very interesting parties. Kamala Harris is getting endorsements from Republicans. She's getting endorsements from labor groups. Joe Biden did well with labor groups, but they can be very progressive and find Biden and Harris insufficiently progressive. And speaking of progressive, leading groups like the Working Families Party. The Working Families, but this is a party that is sort of one of the more progressive, if not radical, voices in mainstream politics. They probably would even say they're not mainstream politics fully because they're so progressive and radical, because they have such a broad and ambitious vision of what our society could be. I love the Working Families Party. Shout out to them. Well, they have endorsed Kamala Harris. I can't wait to talk to Maurice Mo Mitchell, who is the national director for the party. He'll be on later in the week, and we'll ask him why the party made that choice. It's a curious choice, but it suggests that Kamala Harris has a coalition. She's got support. She's got people. And somebody said she's getting the kitty cat lady coin. Yo, y'all might be joking about that, but when JD Vance steps up and says childless cat ladies are ruining the country, there's a lot of women out there who were rightly offended and who said enough with the sexism. Let's stand with this woman. Not because she's a woman, but because she has a vision. But I might give you this money because you're a woman. I might give you this money because JD Vance and Donald Trump are so disgustingly sexist and patriarchal. But at the core, we believe in this campaign. I don't know if JD Vance is going to make it to the finish line with Donald Trump. If he keep talking crazy and undermining votes and waking up the giant and galvanizing the political opponent, I don't know if JD Vance is going to make it. He doesn't seem to have done much for the ticket. And if it looks like they're polling low in Ohio, which is the gift that he's supposed to bring as a junior senator from Ohio, if they ain't winning Ohio with JD Vance, he might have to go. Don't be surprised if that is the case. But again, Kamala Harris is going to be barnstorming through the country. At some moment, there will be some question about what her progressive and radical bona fides are. And that might be when that balloon gets popped. Right now, she said, as you heard in her remarks, that we are a people-powered campaign. That implies that they're grassroots. Grassroots or people power is not how I would describe the Kamala Harris campaign, the Obama campaign, the Biden campaign, the Bush campaign, the Trump campaign. Democratic and Republican parties are corporate parties. They are organized and strengthened and galvanized by corporate money. They do not operate from people power. It doesn't mean that people don't donate. Obama got a lot of individual donations and inspired a lot of people to write them little checks and them big checks and them medium checks. But at the end of the day, let's not pretend that this is not corporate party politics. Let's never forget that it is corporate party politics. Let's never forget that whatever Kamala and her VP choice do, whether it's Whitmer, whether it's Kelly, whether it's Shapiro, whoever it is, please understand that all of them are beholden to the same powerful corporate interests. All of them make their decisions based on what the powerful say. And yeah, they might respond to the voice of the people, but they're driven and directed by the powerful, not by the people. Let's just be very, very clear about that. All right. We have a very, very, very interesting opportunity right now. We have a chance to see Donald Trump stopped. I don't think there's a person on the left who doesn't agree that Donald Trump is a monster, that Donald Trump represents the worst outcome for us in this election cycle. I mean, there might be someone on the left who disagree with that. I don't want to be hyperbolic, but most get that. That's not what needs to be explained. For a lot of us, we get that. The question is, when you go barnstorming through these swing states, what is your vision for us? And for those of us on the left, for those of us who are black, for those of us who are brown, for those of us who are, name it, right? How does widening the tent alienate the vulnerable? In other words, Kamala Harris got a lot of people back on board. And some of y'all weren't really socialists. Some of y'all weren't really communists. Some of y'all weren't really radicals. Because if you were that radical, you shouldn't be sold on Kamala this fast. You might be sold on stopping Trump, but you shouldn't be endorsing Kamala just yet, unless you're just saying, look, I don't blue no matter who or anybody that'll win. But when Kamala expands the net, does she do that by not talking about reparations? Does she do that by not talking about stopping corporate greed? Does she do that by normalizing or sanitizing American imperialism? Does she remain silent on Palestine? What do you do in this context? That's the question you have to ask. That's the question you have to ask. So this is a moment of exaltation. This is a moment of excitement. This is a moment of, oh, we're winning. We got this. First, you got to ask yourself, who's we? And what does winning look like? Again, I get the urgency of Trump. I'm not saying don't do everything you can to stop Trump, but it doesn't mean that politicians have no accountability. You can't walk into the room and not ask a question to Kamala Harris. You can't just let her do whatever, because if there's no pressure applied, if there's no leverage pursued, then you know what you end up with? You end up with 4 years that undoubtedly are better than what Trump would give you, but you foreclose on the possibilities that would have inevitably emerged if Kamala Harris knew that she had to be beholden to us for our votes. That's what Michigan was trying to do with that uncommitted movement. That's what Pennsylvania, it might be starting with the uncommitted movement, and other states, swing states, uncommitted. Y'all, we need this. We need this. Anyway, just my thoughts, y'all. In the meantime, drop your thoughts in the comment. Well, first, hit the like button, though. I like when y'all hit the like button. When you hit the like button, again, smash up the likes, smash up the likes. When you smash up the likes, it lets the YouTube algorithms know that we out here, that you rocking with us, and that independent media matters. So hit that like button, but also drop your comments in. Who do you want to see Kamala Harris side with as a running mate? But also, what do you want her to talk about? What pressure do you want applied to her? What questions do you want posed to her? What are the issues that will make Kamala Harris a more viable option for you than Joe Biden? And if you're just going to hold your nose and vote for whoever's in the poll that's not named Trump, fine. If you had a more ambitious freedom dream, if you had a more creative political imagination, what would you want? If you could control the outcome of this election and the policy decisions of the winner, what would you want? Write all that in the comments. Let us know. We want to hear it. We want to get your comments. We want to get your thoughts. I want to move on to another topic, though, because there's so much going on in the world. Let's do this. As a matter of fact, I'm going to take a 30-second break. We come back. We're going to talk about some other issues going on in the world. In particular, up next, I want to talk about a recent campaign ad that was leaked. It wasn't leaked. It was published by AIPAC, the leading pro-Israel lobbying group. They did a racist campaign ad that will have your head spinning. You don't want to miss this ad, and you don't want to miss the conversation about it. Stay right here. All right, family, welcome back to Night School. Again, if you're just joining us, my name is Marc Lamont Hill. Some of y'all are here for the first time. I welcome that y'all are here for the first time. Some of y'all saw me on the Joe Budden podcast recently, maybe even today. And it was a good time, y'all. I got to talk to Joe. I got to talk to Ice. I got to talk to Queen's Flip. I got to talk to Melissa Ford. I got to talk to Amani, who's in the background. I got to talk to, some other folk who are in the room. There's like a lot of people in the room at the Joe Budden podcast, but the question came up about Amber Rose and Candace Owens. The conversation came up about who we should vote for. Conversation came up about Tory Lanez and recent information that came out from his driver about what happened on the night where he was arrested, charged, and ultimately convicted in the incident with Megan Thee Stallion. Of course, I defended Megan Thee Stallion, as I have since day one. Of course, I argue for a progressive political vision, maybe even a radical political vision. I talked some shit about basketball. Me and Budden made a bet too on who would have a better record, the Sixers or the Knicks. I think we put up a healthy wager to see who would have a better regular season record, and it was fun, y'all. And I know a lot of y'all have joined and subscribed today from the Joe Budden podcast. I welcome y'all. I appreciate y'all. We a little different over here than on the Budden podcast, but we still have a similar energy, right? Which is that It's funny, it's smart, it's laid back, it's fearless. We talk about some different topics, but sometimes they overlap. So, let me know what y'all want to hear. What topics do y'all want covered in night school? Drop in the comment what you want. Let me know what you want. And when you let me know what you want, I will respond. Whether it's politics, whether it's pop culture, whether it's sports, I don't care. The whole point of night school is to break down the most urgent topics, the most pressing conversations, the most controversial debates going on in the world, and some of it is news, like it happened today. Some of it is not. Some of it is like relationship stuff. Some of it is big ideas. What should liberation look like for Black people? Some of it is like, who's the greatest rapper of all time? Like, we do all kinds of stuff over here. So if you're new to night school, man, welcome. Hit that subscribe button while you're here, though. Subscribe. You see all kinds of content on this channel, but make sure you hit the subscribe button. Family, welcome them in. All you first times, come on in. Somebody said, I'd have to be pretty toasty to watch Joe, but it's a good podcast. And I tell you, I thought I would have to be toasty to be on it, but when I went on the first time, I had a great time. Went on the second time, I've had a great time. Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate it so much. Jared Bell, excuse me. I always see your name, Jared, and think you're Jared Ball, but Jared Bell says sports. We could do sports, we could do the sports. Let's do all that stuff. Talk about the satanic ass Olympics. It's funny you say that. My final word tonight is about the Olympic Games, but I know we said we had a lot of things to talk about. Before I talk about Cori Bush, I want to talk about something else. Donald Trump. There has been a social media storm. It started brewing yesterday when it was announced, or days ago, really, when it was announced that the National Association of Black Journalists, NABJ, would be welcoming Donald J. Trump, former president of the United States, current candidate for the presidency of the United States, and overall a piece of human garbage. It was announced that NABJ would be inviting Mr. Trump for an interview. As I mentioned last night, the interview would be held by 3 Black journalists, all Black women journalists, which I thought was sort of interesting and noteworthy, and I thought kind of powerful, right? NABJ welcomes, this was the ad, NABJ welcomes U.S. President Donald J. Trump for a special conversation in Chicago. Rachel Scott from ABC News, Harris Faulkner from Fox News, and Kadia Gaba Semaphore, Goba Semaphore, forgive me, Kadia. And all 3 of them are very impressive journalists. All of them are gifted journalists. Kadia Goba is the politics writer for Semaphore, and she's covered Congress. She's been at Axios, BuzzFeed News. She's been in a lot of places. She is no joke. You know what I mean? She's a serious person. Harris Faulkner is a longtime vet at Fox News, and Rachel Scott is an ABC News journalist, reporter, and somebody that people know very well. So it wasn't about the qualifications of the journalists. It was about whether or not we wanted Donald Trump at our event. And I say our because I am a longtime member of the National Association of Black Journalists. And for some of us, the position was Donald Trump is a terrible human being. He is a threat to democracy. He is an enemy of the free press. And he has had a particular type of disrespect that he has offered or demonstrated to Black journalists in particular. And when you have somebody like that who doesn't respect us, doesn't like us, has never pretended to, oh, that's not true. He pretended to in the 90s when we were just rappers, right? But ever since he got all MAGA'd out, he hasn't. So what do you do in the face of that? Well, a lot of us say, well, if Donald Trump hates us, doesn't like us, why would we allow him into our space, which is a healing space, which is a productive space, which is a community space? If anybody who's a journalist knows NABJ, it's a convention. We talk, we meet, we learn, we network, and then there's a sports party. We turn up. All of it is how Black journalists and Black aspiring journalists carry on this long and beautiful tradition of Black truth-telling in the media. Why do we want to sully our space with Donald Trump? Why do we want to legitimize Donald Trump in our space? He hates us. He assaults us. Why do we want him there? The other side of it is we are journalists. And how dare we look at a presidential election and not participate in our capacity as journalists? We just gonna let the white folk ask all the questions? We're gonna let the mainstream white platforms and the white or media outlets or the specialized partisan media outlets, the Fox Newses of the world, or the special interests, the evangelical, that's a faith community, but I'm saying in terms of they're bringing Donald Trump in to talk about abortion, they're bringing him in to talk about stem cell research, they're bringing him in to talk about marriage equality, bringing him in to talk about, those kinds of issues. Are we going to let them be the only people that Donald Trump talks to? Donald Trump loves ducking the media. Donald Trump hates accountability. Donald Trump hates to be questioned. So why not bring him into our house? Since you need our votes to win, you don't need a lot of our votes, but you need some of them. Why not bring him in and ask him the tough questions? And since some Black folk, for some reason, still want to vote for Donald Trump, why don't we show them just how trifling Donald Trump is? So those are the competing arguments. Those are the debates. That's the struggle. Do we bring Donald Trump in? And when we bring Donald Trump in, what do we do? Because some people say, yeah, Black journalists should interview Donald Trump, but it shouldn't be at NABJ. But the truth is, where else is he going to go? Is he going to go to Breakfast Club? I'd love him to go to Breakfast Club. Is he going to go? Is he going to come to night school? I don't know. Is he going to pop up on BET or TV One? I hope so. But the reality is we had a chance to pin him down at NABJ. Do we take it? Well, that was the debate. People were firing, or people were quitting, people were dropping out, people were stepping down from their official positions at NABJ because they believed that Donald Trump shouldn't be there. My position, to be clear, is I don't think it's wrong to hold Donald Trump accountable at NABJ, to invite him and ask him the right questions. But there has to be real clarity on what the questions are going to be, what our approach is going to be, and we can't take no shorts on, as they say in the 90s, right? We can't let him bully us, we can't let him filibuster, and we can't tolerate disrespect. When he disrespects us in our house, we show him that it's our house. Well, today at NABJ, none of that happened. Donald Trump came and showed his whole ass. He disrespected the space, he disrespected the format, he disrespected the tradition, and he disrespected those Black women on the stage. And it didn't take him long to get cooking. It started at the beginning when Rachel Scott from ABC News asked Donald Trump to explain why Black voters should take him seriously, given his, and particularly this room of Black journalists, given the fact that Donald Trump has had such an antagonistic and frankly disrespectful relationship to the Black media. Here's what she said. Here was his response.
Like animal and rabid to is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe Black district attorneys. You've attacked Black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. I've done so much, and and I say this, historically black colleges and universities were out of money, they were stone cold broke, and I saved them, and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said, you can't do it with Zoom. Well, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late. Just so we understand, I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working, or something was wrong.
Mr. President, I would love if you can answer the question on your rhetoric and why you believe
I have
that
answered the
black voters should
question.
trust you with another 4
I have
years.
been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act?
And for you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
Woo. Okay. There are a few things happening there. I'm going to break down every piece of it. First, Donald Trump's response to the question, which was posed by Rachel Scott, begins with just unrestrained vitriol. It was very clear from the moment Donald Trump opened his mouth that he did not like those women. He liked Harris Faulkner, of course, but he did not like the other two women up there, and that he resented being there. Let's start there. The woman Rachel asked a quite reasonable question, which was, given your history of disrespecting black journalists, of hanging with racists, of doing all these other things, why should we trust you with another 4 years? Why should we vote for you? Now, instead of just answering the question, Donald Trump goes into whining mode. He goes into excuse mode, and he goes into bull in a china shop mode. Let me be more specific. The first thing he does, of course, is to say, well, let me say that this is just basically like, this is the worst question I've ever been asked. You say that about everything, right? He's like such hyperbole. He said, you didn't say hi. You didn't ask how I was doing. Look, I don't think, as a journalist myself, when I sit down with anybody, I say, hey, thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me. I don't necessarily say, how are you? Maybe if I'm in person with them and it's a little more relaxed, I might say, how you doing? How you been? But I don't think I have to ask how you're doing. I don't think that's required as a journalist, neither by the letter of our our codes or even by convention. That's just not what we do. What Donald Trump was mad about was that he was about to be asked a question other than, why are you so awesome? That's all he wants to be asked. Anything other than that, Donald Trump don't want to answer it. Donald Trump then proceeds to talk about the things that he has done for black people. Some people said, including, and this is where I disagree with Rachel. Some people said Donald Trump never answered the question. In fact, she said to him, Donald Trump, can you please answer the question? He said, I did answer the question. And then he reiterated and took it up a notch and said, I'm the greatest president for black people since Abraham Lincoln, a claim that he's made before. Let's be very clear. Donald Trump did answer the question. It's wrong to say Donald Trump didn't answer the question. What I would have liked to see was a follow-up, because basically, if you say, look, Donald Trump, you've disrespected us, you've lied on us, you've hung with racists, you've justified acts of racism, why should I vote for you? And he says, well, HBCUs, opportunity zones, economic prosperity, then basically what he's saying is, you should ignore my racism because I make you money. That's effectively what he is answering the question. So I would like to see a clarification of that question where you say, so are you suggesting that your administration's victories serve as justification for the things that I mentioned? Because Donald Trump never addressed the accusations. He never denied the accusations. He just said, look, I gave y'all money. What y'all tripping about? What are you Negroes mad at? So that's the other part of it. Donald Trump complained about them starting 35 minutes late. And he complained constantly throughout the 36-minute interview about the machinery not working. What he was effectively doing was trying to discredit the event, discredit the NABJ, and because Donald Trump is a pathological liar, the claim itself about things being late left out a few details. He left out a few details. Yes, the event was late. That's a fact. But why? Why was the event late? Well, I'll tell you why. According to my sources at the NABJ, numerous sources at the NABJ, Donald Trump agreed to show up. The organization insisted on live fact checking. Donald Trump rejected live fact checking. And so for 35 minutes, they were in a, quote, standoff. They were in a standoff. So it wasn't that these Negroes showed up late to a professional event, which is what you would think. I mean, no, I don't know. CPT is one thing, right? And coaches all around the world have their own versions of social time perspective, which is what it actually is. If you look up psychology. But black folk don't show up late to this kind of stuff. Black folk got home training. We got good sense. We have respect, and we are quite capable. Every Sunday at church, Sunday service starts on time. Every Friday at Jumu'ah, we start on time. We know when to show up on time and when to be okay. We show up to work on time, black people on the whole, right? We don't all disappear. Black folks start on time. But Donald Trump is kind of smuggling in this idea that, oh, these Negroes start late and they got broke equipment. No, Mr. Trump. That's not true. It's simply not true. Donald Trump went to his Truth Social account. That's his what do you call it? I guess fake. It's like a one-man Twitter, right? And he said, I've been waiting for a half hour. The speaker equipment at the NABJ is not working properly. Don't blame me for being late. That was his argument. He wanted people to know that. And I get why. I would do the same thing. If I were late starting, I wouldn't want all these people to think that Donald Trump disrespected the event by not showing up on time, which is what people would assume. And I mean, Donald Trump has given us reason to believe that he would do that. But no, that wasn't it at all. Philip Lewis reported this earlier. Lots of people, Roland Martin reported this. My brother, shout out to Roland. Lots of people reported this. I'm going to bring it up for you so you can see it more clearly. Same thing. I'm told that Donald Trump is demanding that NABJ not do the live fact checking. That's why the event hasn't started yet. We're in a standoff was the quote on the ground. This was the problem, Mr. Trump. You weren't disrespected because it started late. It started late because you were disrespecting us by telling us as journalists we can't do our job by fact checking. In debates, we fact check. ABC debates, NBC debates, Fox News debate, they can fact check. Why would you not do that here? Anyway, in that response, Donald Trump also complains about Kamala Harris not being there. He says he's being mistreated. It's a part that didn't make sense. He's like, you said no, she's not coming, and I was promised I was brought here on false pretenses. You weren't. It's not false pretenses. When you agreed to come to NABJ, it probably was when Joe Biden was still the nominee. If you're saying that you were told it was either going to be Biden or Kamala. If it was afterward, then Biden had nothing to do with it, and you're just bringing that up to, again, make it seem like you've been cheated. Donald Trump has a narrative brewing right now that he was cheated, right? And he said it in the interview multiple times, right? That I was supposed to be going against Joe Biden. And he said Joe Biden is like a prize fighter who, even though he's losing the fight, and he brought the debate up as an example, instead of fighting to the end, they try to bring in a new boxer. He should have fought to the end. He's right now using it to disparage Joe Biden, but more fundamentally, he's saying, hey, I'm in the 8th round of a fight, and now you're bringing a fresh new fighter. I'm being cheated. Donald Trump always reserves the right to complain about the process. In the first election against Hillary, he said Hillary cheated, crooked Hillary, the elections are rigged. And then when he won, he says, I win despite the elections being rigged. When he loses against Joe Biden in 2020, he says they're rigged and I lost. And so let's reshape American political processes so that I can be the winner. Or if not, let's have an insurrection, right? Like this is where we ended up messing with Donald Trump in this particular case around the stuff. You notice he called her Kamala. He used the name properly a couple of times. He said Kamala. Other times he said Kamala. Every time he spoke, you heard groans in the audience. You heard him when he said Kamala instead of Kamala. When he said, I love the black population. He talked about us like we were like aliens, right? When he talked about doing more for us than Lincoln. And there's visible disgust in the crowd. And then there were a few handkerchief-head Negroes out there who clapped for Donald Trump. I gotta admit. And I was like, who did he mentioned Tim Scott's opportunity zones. I figured Tim Scott might be there or a Tim Scott-like figure who was over there clapping like a seal. But it was at least 100. It was no. I heard at least 10 people clapping for Donald Trump. And I said, wow. This is unfortunate. And I'm not going to belabor this anymore, but there was a series of statements that Donald Trump made that were simply wrong. He talked about Democrats aborting babies after they come out in the 9th month. That's bullshit. It's absolutely, completely bullshit. He talked about his political record with HBCUs grossly misrepresenting what he did and what he did not do. When he talked about the black jobs, which they kind of jumped in on, he ignored the fact that the jobs that Mexican Americans and other people who are coming, or Mexicans who are coming across the border, that they're taking are actually not jobs that would have otherwise been taken by Black Americans. They're actually not taking our jobs. That's just a fascist tactic. All of this is Donald Trump lying to the people with no pushback. Now, I know there's no live fact checking, but damn, y'all could have jumped in a little bit. At some point, Donald Trump just bullied everybody and just kept yapping and wasn't fought against. But then there's another moment. Let's move on. There was a moment where they asked Donald Trump about DEI. And again, Donald Trump don't really be knowing what words mean. But they asked him about DEI, and he gave some weird answers, just like the answer he gave about pronouns the day before. where it wasn't entirely clear that he understood what these words meant. And so he tries to say, well, you tell me what it means. What does it mean to find it? Not because he's trying to be nuanced and academic, but because he doesn't know and he's trying to deflect. Anyway, as they talked about DEI a little bit, and they talked about some of the allegations from other people that Kamala Harris was in fact a DEI hire, which is, what they say about a lot of Black folk these days. They asked him a very specific and pointed question about Kamala Harris as it relates to race and her participation in the presidential race. Here's what she said. Here's what he said.
President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a Black woman.
Well, I can say, no, I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was Black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn Black, and now she wants to be known as Black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she Black?
She is always identified as a Black woman.
I respect either one. I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a Black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe that
I think somebody should look into that.
I think someone should look into that. Okay. So Donald Trump, again, was like a bull in a china shop right here, right now, in this clip. Not just the beginning, but this is like the middle of the interview now. Donald Trump is still just knocking everybody all over. She asked if he's Donald Trump was asked if Kamala Harris was a DEI hire. And Donald Trump basically said, I don't know if she is or if she isn't, right? Now, he has an opportunity there to say, no, she's not a DEI hire. He could disagree with DEI. He could carry on the Christopher Rufo campaign on DEI. He could lie about DEI. He could misrepresent affirmative action. He could do all the things that the right has done, but still not disrespect his opponent. But he couldn't even say to Kamala Harris that she is a worthy opponent, that she deserves to be there. Joe Biden, who said he finished at the top of his law class and actually was a mediocre law student, you could have asked about him. You could have questioned his bona fides, but you didn't. Right? You could have gone at a whole bunch of random Republicans. Look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. Really, look at Boebert, right? These are people who are remarkably mediocre. The only thing noteworthy about them is how unnoteworthy they are, right? They're not interesting. They're not smart. They're just not. There's not much to it. But he doesn't. So because he doesn't want to piss off his racist base. I don't know if he thinks he's like, I don't know if she's a DEI hire. Whatever happened to just presuming that somebody who was an attorney general of the state of California, someone who was a U.S. senator, someone who was who is the vice president of America. I don't know, that maybe she's qualified. How about just presuming that? That's neither here nor there. Because when you talk about affirmative action, Donald Trump went to Penn after having a very rich and powerful father. That's not legacy. That's affirmative action. His kids, Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, being the Middle East czar, and after he told me he read 10 books in the Middle East, that's affirmative action. His kids running the campaign and by proxy the country, that's affirmative action. We just call it something else. All that said, Donald Trump turns it up a notch. Donald Trump says that, let me play it again for y'all, because I thought Donald Trump occasionally is funny. He's such an asshole that sometimes he's just hilarious. Listen to this.
She was Black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn Black, and now she wants to be known as Black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she Black?
She is always identified as a Black woman. She went to a historically Black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn and she became a Black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe that she is? I think
somebody should look into that.
People were outraged. They were groaning. Some people were laughing. Donald Trump is a clown, and so it's easy to laugh when he goes Black. Now she's a black person. She was Indian all the way, and then she was black. If you heard the journalist, I believe again that was, I think in this question, this was also Rachel Scott. She was attempting to push back and say, no, she's black. She went to a black college, but you couldn't hear her over Donald Trump, who again was like a bull inside a china shop. Donald Trump overpowered her. He wouldn't let anybody else talk. He was disrespectful. He put on a show, and this is the kind of optics that make Donald Trump compelling to a lot of people, including black men who, quite frankly, sometimes like to see that kind of male domination. They like to see black women put in their place. They like to see them checked. And that kind of patriarchal sensibility may have made what you saw today compelling to some of those black male Trump potential voters. That's another conversation for another time, though. He said that Kamala Harris was Indian all the way, and then she got black. Let's be very clear. That is completely false. That is completely false. Kamala Harris grew up in Oakland. Kamala Harris has a black parent and an Indian parent. We live in a country that believes in one-drop rules. Since day one, if you had a drop of Negro in you, you was something. You was mulatto, quadroon, octoroon. You was something, but you was not white. Whiteness was the germ of worth. Whiteness was the standard. Anything else, black blood made you less than white. So that's the backdrop. That's the context, just to be clear. So just by American racial logic, she's black. The woman went to Howard University, HU. There's at least 50 people going, right now. You don't go to a historically black college or university unless you are already committed to blackness, black communities, black traditions, black ideas, black life. Like, if it's one thing if you say she went to Duke University and one day she just went from Indian to black, you'd be like, okay, what happened over there? But nah, she was at a black school. She went to a school that only black people go to. Yes, there's some white people at Howard, especially in the grad programs. They be milking that. But even in undergrad, there's a handful. Morehouse, when I was a freshman, there was a handful of white people. But in general, these are black schools for black people. Nobody who doesn't identify as black at 17, 18 years old just picks up and goes to Morehouse. Knock it off. She's black. And she didn't go there as an exotic non-black. She went there as a black girl. She joined Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I know for white people, sororities and fraternities are not as big a deal as they are to us. They're not just 4 years of frat parties and drinking binges and centuries-old legacies of wealth and privilege. No. For black folk, it's a lifelong tradition. We talk about Black Greek letter organizations. We revere them. We don't always pay for them. We don't fund them. We're not financial, but we love them. Our emotional commitments and our psychological bonds are strong because they are one of the most fundamentally black things you can do. So she is a black girl, AKA from Howard, who grew up in Oakland. She's dated black men. She's been in black organizations. She's self-identified as black every time I've ever been able to hear her speak. And as far back as I've dug, she's identified as black. And I've spent time with Kamala Harris, not a lot, but enough to know that she's a black woman. So why would Donald Trump say that in a room full of black people? Again, the condescension of saying she's not even black. Y'all, you idiots don't even realize she's fooling you all. Now, Donald Trump, of course, is just echoing the internet noise. He's just echoing the people who keep saying she's not black, she's not black, she's not black. They're bots on the internet. They're movements on the internet. Now, of course, there's also various reparations organizations that would say she's not a descendant of slavery. True. She's not a descendant of American slavery. I mean, her father's Jamaican. A whole lot of slavery happened there, too. But they would say you know, why are we caping for somebody who's not even one of us? You know, for me, identity politics doesn't over determine my voting choice. I'd rather vote for a progressive or radical white man than I would a black person, even if they descended from slavery, if ultimately they just want to undermine our progress as a community. So I don't care about that. I'm here for justice. I'm here for freedom. I'm here for liberation of all people, but especially by people. So that's what it is. So why is Donald Trump taking this angle? Because he's trying to disconnect Kamala Harris from the black community. And the arrogance of a white man to go into a black room filled with black people and tell them that this black woman is not a real black person, the hubris is through the roof. It's on 100,000 trillion to say that. This is the disrespect that I'm talking about. But Donald Trump knows that we're so proud to be in the room with the powerful, that we are so reverent about whiteness, that we'll still let him in the room. I'm not saying that's the people at NABJ, that was their logic, because I think people at NABJ, a lot of them just said, look, we're journalists, we got to ask tough questions, let's bring them here. But the disrespect that Donald Trump showed those 3 black women, the disrespect that he showed our black journalism profession, the disrespect that he showed our black community with his tone, with his words, with his lies, it's a reflection of who he is. We didn't learn anything new about Donald Trump. We just got more proof of what we already know. And as an angel of redemption said, Donald Trump literally thought he was doing black folks a favor showing up to the event. And that's how he acted. And you know why? Because we act like that too. So I hope we learned a valuable lesson today. My mama used to say, you play with a puppy, he gonna lick you in the mouth. Puppies gonna do what puppies do. You don't want to get licked in the mouth, don't play with a puppy. But if you play with a puppy long enough, they're gonna do what puppies do. We keep playing with Donald Trump. We keep engaging Donald Trump. He came in there and showed his whole ass, and we have nobody to blame but ourselves for it. Now, you still may think it was worth it. There's a part of me that says, look, he showed his whole ass. Maybe now the world will see how he treated us. And maybe now, because he treated us like that, those black people that were on the fence will be like, nah, I can't vote for him. Those white people who are on the fence will be reminded of how racist he is and say, you know what, never mind. That's what I hope. But the truth is, if you're a white person still considering Donald Trump, then racial justice ain't your priority. The needs of the black community ain't your bag. And if you're a black person who's still considering voting Donald Trump, then you're not voting black interests. You might vote your individual interests if you're rich or if you have a particular political commitment. But if you're still thinking about Donald Trump right now, if you're undecided between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, I'm not sure this will do anything for you. I'm not sure that this will do anything for you. So I think at the end of the day, we learn a valuable lesson here, which is don't invite Donald Trump anymore. Yes, we should invite every Republican presidential candidate moving forward. I still hold on to that. Yes, we should have invited every presidential candidate, Democrat and Republican, prior to now. But Donald Trump is a unique phenomenon. He cannot be analyzed or engaged based on the norm, based on the rules of the day, based on how we traditionally operate. Nah, B. Donald Trump, he's not an extreme version of our tradition in this way. He is outside of our traditions, and therefore we have to treat him as somebody who's not one of us. That means don't invite him, ignore him, isolate him, and work like hell to get him out of office by any means necessary. I'm gonna take a 30-second break. When we come back, we're gonna talk about Cori Bush before we go. Woo, she's in a tight, intense race for re-election in her Missouri or even St. Louis seat, her congressional seat. And she got a lot of powerful people trying to stop her. We'll tell you what they've done next. Welcome back to Night School. Whoo, Lord, we are cooking tonight. I think that there is just a profound beauty when people who believe in freedom come together and build. And what you see in the comments section right now is a whole bunch of people with a whole lot of different opinions, a whole lot of different beliefs, all coming together, arguing, debating, agreeing, co-signing, affirming. And I think it's dope. I think it's dope. I'm so, I just think it's dope that y'all are, I just think it's dope that y'all are building. So keep building, man. If you're watching us on Twitter, jump onto YouTube. Come to YouTube right now and drop your comments. And also hit the like button. If you have not hit the like button yet, hit it right now. If you have not hit the subscribe button, hit it right now. If you haven't hit the join button, think about it and hit it right now if you can. I would be very, very grateful if you all could make that happen. But let's keep talking. There's some comments coming in, some super chats coming in. I want to make sure I read. Daily Positive Affirmation said, how isn't it problematic to perpetuate the one drop rule? Is it not dismissive of the other heritages of multiracial people and simultaneously contributing to the erasure of the visibility of monoracial people? I don't think there's such a thing as monoracial people at the level that you're talking about, right? Or let me put it differently. Race is a social construct, right? Race is it's the meaning we assign to it. The idea of saying like, I'm monoracial and you're biracial. The way the American racial landscape operates is, yeah, I mean, I have white ancestors, I'm sure, but I'm Black. And if I had a white parent, which I don't, to be clear, but if I had a white parent, I'd still be Black. And multiracial isn't untrue if we're speaking about our kind of genealogical origins, or we're talking about our biological makeup, or we're just talking about our familial structure. But at the core, Blackness in the context of the United States, and again, we have to remember, race is not a biological construct, it's a social one. We assign the meanings to it, and collectively, Blackness means a certain thing in the United States. So no, I'm not saying that the one drop rule should be the norm. I'm not saying the one drop rule should be how we govern our racial practices and actions. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that there's a reality here, which is that if you grow up with a Black father and you're phenotypically Black, right? And your street racial identification is, some sociologists talk about, like, if the way I'm read on the street is Black, and I'm in a Black community, and I'm in a Black school, and I'm in Black organizations, how the hell are you going to tell me that I'm not Black? That's the thing. If Kamala Harris were going around saying, look, I'm not Black, I'm half Black, half Indian, or I'm Indian and Black, or I'm whatever, I'm Jamaican, Indian, Black, whatever. If she were saying that herself, I'd say, let her identify how she wants. I still would have a critique of it. I'd say, look, the world sees you as Black. The police see you as Black. You're socialized as Black in certain ways. You're received in the world as Black. You're Black. But you have every right to self-identify in ways that acknowledge these other parts of you. I would have no issue with that, but she's not doing that. Donald Trump isn't invoking some complicated racial logic here. He's not saying that we shouldn't be reductive in our racial analysis. Donald Trump is saying she was Indian until she wasn't. And that's just not factually true. It's just internet bullshit. That's all that is. As Tonya the Creator says, she comes from the folks that use washcloths. That is funny. But I also think it's important to know that white folk do use washcloths. Maybe not the exact same way we culturally are trained to do, but white folk use washcloths. They wouldn't sell them in Target and at craft fairs and all these other places that Black folk don't be. They wouldn't be selling all these sets if they weren't being used. I can tell you that for sure. But anyway, I'm open, Daily Positive Affirmation, to a more robust racial analysis. I'm open to thinking about race in a different way. I'm open to all of that. I'm not trying to say that one drop rules are the only game in town. All I'm saying is that Donald Trump is making a claim about Kamala Harris's non-blackness that would only be true if we denied her own self-identification, her own personal story, but also how race works in America. That's all I'm saying. So don't tell me she's not black because she has an Indian parent, because all over the internet, that's what we're seeing right now. People are saying, why do you keep saying Kamala Harris is black? And then they show her Indian mom or her Indian mother's birth certificate. And I'm like, that's not enough. That's not enough. That's not enough. All right, let's move on. Let me take another question. Have you read The Counter-Revolution of 1836 by Gerald Horne? It's about the origins of fascism in the United States. I have. Also, we need to have Gerald Horne on this show for office hours. There would be no better interview than to sit down for 2 or 3 hours with Gerald Horne, because he is brilliant. He is one of the most underappreciated, underrated scholars in our community, in our country, in our world. The man is brilliant and prolific, man. And we just need more of Gerald Horne. But yes, it's a wonderful book. I want to shout out Jeremiah Muhammad, who just gifted 10 Marc Lamont Hill channel memberships, 10 of them, y'all. I hope y'all grab the memberships up, fam, because we get busy over here and we growing quick. The Wanderer said Trump is refusing to debate Kamala now. Should debate her. Apparently she's a subpar DEI hire. Well, he should have no problem winning that debate. I think that that's an interesting approach, right? And claim that you're making, which is that Donald Trump is not only afraid to debate her, but it makes him look like a hypocrite, or like he don't mean what he says when she says she's so weak. If she's weak, debate her and beat her, right? Donald Trump don't care when you find his contradictions. Donald Trump don't care when you say, hey, you said this on Monday and on Tuesday you said this, or shit, you said this on Monday at 9 a.m. and 9:05 you said the opposite. Donald Trump don't care because y'all not gonna hold him accountable for his contradictions. So Donald Trump is happy to say, I destroyed Kamala Harris in a debate. I hate Kamala Harris to get beaten so badly, but that's what I'm going to do. He'll say that. He'll say she's weak. He'll say that she's DEI high. He'll say that she's very mediocre. And then he'll say, I'm not debating her. And he'll keep making up excuses to duck her. But guess what? He still ain't going to do it. And he don't care what you think, because he knows that after mollywhopping Joseph Robinette Biden in the first debate, he ain't got nowhere to go but down. It's very unlikely that he's going to exceed his performance in that debate, because Kamala is awake. Kamala is mentally sharp. Kamala is probably a better talker and better debater at this stage in our political moment. And she has the ability to fact check Donald Trump. She's a prosecutor. That's what the police do. So I fully expect Donald Trump. I'm not saying they're not going to debate, but I'm just going to say, if I'm Donald Trump, I don't debate unless I'm sinking in the polls and I need something. I need to get her angry. I need to try to spark a controversy. I need to throw a Hail Mary maybe in September, October. He'll do something to debate her if he needs to, but if he doesn't need to, Donald Trump's not going to do it because the American people deserve it. He's not going to do it because our political discourse is nourished by it. He's going to do whatever makes him win and whatever feeds his ego. And that's that about that. Shout out to Fate Look, first of all, who's a new member to the channel. Fate Look joined our YouTube family with a membership and then immediately bought 10 memberships for other people. Yo, that is so beautiful. Thank you, Fate Look. I'm so grateful. Jazz LP, Dallas's Finest, said something that I think is so important, that Black journalists today lost control. I think we lost control 2 days ago with this whole fiasco and how we sort of and leaking of our internal processes, but not fully, or the misrepresentation of what happened, and the competing factions and the disrespect and the scapegoating and the abandonment of the Black woman leadership, and all these things were happening. I'm good. We lost, but today on that panel, you are absolutely right, Jazz. We lost control. We embarrassed ourselves. We didn't embarrass the whole profession. I'm not one of the people that thinks every time a black person makes a mistake, the whole community is doomed or damned. But we didn't look we didn't reflect the best of our tradition today. We didn't ask the tough questions. We didn't hold him accountable. We didn't refuse to back down. We let Donald Trump walk all over us. And again, when he walks all over us and disrespects us, that's going to appeal to some white people. And the fact that, again, it was 3 black women on that stage, I think that's going to appeal to some black men who are still deeply steeped in patriarchy. Now, the good news is those people weren't voting for Kamala Harris anyway. So we'll see what happens. Psych PhD student, Ace HB 972. Thank you for the love, Ace. He's a narcissist. I refuse to work with narcissists because they refuse to be held accountable. It's a waste of time. You're crazy for doing so. That's right. But you know why some people work with narcissists? Even though they don't want to be held accountable? Because they open doors for them. People know Donald Trump is batshit, but they also know that Donald Trump will change the political tide in the Congress. They know that he can change the complexion of the court, the political complexion, not the racial complexion. That too, though. They know that you can ride the Trump wave into re-election. And so, yeah, they know he's a narcissist and he's crazy. And I can't tell you how many people I've met with who worked in his administration for a week, a day, an hour, a year, 4 years, who have crazy stories about how difficult he is. Yeah, but people, when you ask people why they stayed, they say because he had something to offer us. And the moment that was going, they were going. The political actors, political representatives, political figures of politicians, but also the behind the scenes folk, most of them aren't moving from principle. They're doing what's best for them. It's just a power grab. Jazz wanted to correct herself and rephrase. She said we gave up our control. Yeah, I think that's right. We didn't lose it in a sense. We gave it up. We surrendered it, and for a purpose that I don't think was worth it. Isaac Hemsey just gifted 5 memberships to the channel, y'all. Thank you, Isaac. Anthony Shannon just gifted 20 memberships to the channel. Oh my God, y'all going big or go home today, huh? Y'all just showing out. Shout out to FLQ309L for becoming a channel member. I'm so grateful, man. Y'all have been showing out. We got a Sigma writing in. Amos Leak said VP Harris at D9 Boulay or Conclave worth it. Hashtag I won't say what GoMab is. I know the secret though. I know what it means. No, I don't. Don't hurt me. I think Kamala Harris will show up to every black event, every boulay, every convention, every conclave, all these events to galvanize support and to fundraise. But I think it's important, again, to recognize that you can get all the Negroes you want in Atlanta to vote for you. And you should, because that might steal Georgia for you. And you might get all the Negroes in Cleveland to come out for you. You need to register new voters, expand the electorate. You might be able to pull Ohio out. But at the end of the day, you're not going to win states if young people don't believe in you. You're not going to win states if progressive members of the Democratic Party are not sold on you. You're not going to win if you haven't convinced Black nationalists and other folk that you care about reparations at least a little bit, at least pretend to. Damn it. Now, I don't want you to fake and lie. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, no, show us the respect to at least engage our issue. Anyway, this is where we are. This is who we are. I think she should go to all those events because I think that's how you galvanize the support. But I'm much more interested in her meeting with workers on the assembly line. I'm much more interested in her talking to people who have been working in the grassroots movements to build reparations into our agenda. I'm much more interested in people who are fighting for educational liberation by pushing back against neoliberal educational reform and fighting for site-based control, fighting for deeper investments in math and science, deeper investments in music and arts. I want her outside talking to folk, all over, not just people who throw up, sign. I don't call them gang signs, who throw up signs and bark and shout and ape walk and shimmy and all that stuff, although shimmy is perfectly reasonable. Kenley George has gifted 5 memberships. Thank you. Shout out to you as well. Before we go, one more story, y'all. I know we're going long tonight, but I told y'all I invited y'all into the classroom, and I showed up late, so I gotta, make sure y'all are fed intellectually before we go. I want to talk about AIPAC. As you know, Cori Bush. Y'all know Cori Bush. If you don't, you should. Cori Bush is kind of the second wave of squad members, the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, who's really fighting to produce a radically different social arrangement in our country, something that actually creates justice and equality. Well, she is in right now the fight for her life. And one of the people making her political fight so strenuous is AIPAC. Now, you got to understand, how can I put it? Congressional district, once you win a congressional seat in a Black neighborhood, in a Democratic area or a Republican area, you have a stronghold, you can run for re-election damn near uncontested for 20, 30 years. Ain't nobody fighting you. Ain't nobody trying to take your spot like that. Occasionally you get a Democratic challenger from who will fight you in the primary, but in general, once the party puts their blessing on you, once the delegates and the voters put their blessing on you, you're fine. But every once in a while, your political opponent or a special interest group that hates your guts will fund somebody from your party to beat you in the primary, to teach you a lesson. And that's what AIPAC has been doing to Democrats in the House of Representatives who oppose the state of Israel's practices against the Palestinians inside of Israel, in the West Bank, and in Gaza and around the diaspora. AIPAC, which stands for the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. Is that right? Committee? Yeah. They are the leading pro-Israel lobbying group in the country. They have a lot of influence, and they continue to spend tens of millions of dollars trying to unseat candidates who don't agree with Israel's ethnic cleansing of Gaza and the West Bank. Now, after spending $17 million, I want y'all to hear that number again, $17 million to beat Jamal Bowman in New York, our Democratic congressman brother. I'm not a Democrat, but he's my brother. AIPAC is now targeting somebody else. They're now targeting Cori Bush. She, again, a representative from Missouri. And they believe that they can beat Jamal Bowman, they can repeat their success in St. Louis. So they're smearing her as an anti-Semite. They're raising money so that people can launch attack ads, TV ads, radio ads. They're doing everything they can to beat Cori Bush, but now they're coloring, even, pardon the expression, they're coloring outside the lines. They are releasing racist attack ads. And you have to understand, they've always been racist. The racist part ain't really new. But the levels of racism are getting worse. Just the other day, they released a mailer. It's from an AIPAC super PAC, right? And what they did, I'm going to show you the photo, right? But I just want to prepare you for it. They released a photo that basically distorted how Cori Bush looks. They did this because they want you to be afraid of her. We've seen this forever, right? Now, for those that don't know what Cori Bush looks like, here's Cori Bush. Whoops, that ain't Cori Bush. Thank God. Where is Cori Bush? This is Cori Bush. This is Cori Bush. You see Cori Bush? Look at her face. Now I'm going to show you another picture of Cori Bush. This is the AIPAC version. See what they did there? Do you see what they did there? Do you see what they did there? I want you to look again. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know, I need you. I need you to pay attention and see it for yourself, so that later on, you understand exactly what makes. I want you to see exactly what makes this racist. Okay. Let me bring this up again. I'll bring this up one more time. Stay with me, y'all. Stay with me. We're almost done. But I need y'all to see this. So if you look at the picture, they do a couple of things. First, they make her darker, right? They take our sister and they make her darker. On all of the AIPAC ads, they make her darker. And the goal of making her darker, of course, is to make her scary to people, because we live in a white supremacist world where darker is scary. So they show her with a darker face. She already got the braids. They show her, they find the most frustrated or angry, whatever you want to call it, face to make her look dark and menacing and not one of us, right? I don't know Cori Bush well, but that wouldn't be how I think of Cori Bush. And there's nothing wrong with being dark. Being dark is beautiful. Dark skin is gorgeous. Dark skin is the core of our identity. We are Black people. That isn't the point. The point is, you made her darker than she is because, you know, white supremacist values suggest that blackness is ugly. So they did that, but they didn't just do that. People, what else they did here? Look at her forehead. They literally added a slope to her forehead. They added a slope to her forehead. Now, you know what they say about Black people and our brains, etc., right? So they change our features so that we look different. Her forehead is photoshopped and appears sloped, right? And shout out to The Intercept for doing doing this kind of investigation. They want to make you afraid. The Intercept did this really interesting piece that I want you all to read, and they break down the actual history of ads with tropes, from Jamal Bowman's run to Raphael Warnock's skin, to all these other moments where we have clearly and unabashedly, or where they have clearly and unabashedly changed people's physical characteristics as a way of making them a threat, of making them menacing and threatening, of reinforcing white supremacist anxieties about Black people. This is not a coincidence. This is not a game. Also, family, this is not a dress rehearsal. The time is now to fight, because they're going to make our women, our sisters, our mothers, our daughters look like animals. They're going to make them look like primates. They are going to construct them as liars and dangerous and hate mongers. They're going to do all of these things because they know that it works. They know that they can win by the margin of us who don't care, or the margin of us who don't pay attention, while they are open enemies. And when I say they and our open enemies, I'm talking about anybody who doesn't believe in justice. It's hard to imagine that the Republican Party believes in justice. It's hard to believe that MAGA believes in justice. It's hard to believe that a party that will stop at nothing to win has any kind of ethical compass or moral base. Look at Jamal Bowman here. Just so you understand, this ain't new. This is Jamal Bowman. Look at what they did to him. They do the same thing. They make him shadowy. Bowman would defund the police. Bowman works against President Biden and the Democratic agenda. Bowman abandoned our allies like Israel and Ukraine. And then they make him dark and menacing and shadowy again. Why do they do that? Because it works. Why do they do that? Because it works. They know that white people are already skeptical about Negroes. And if you make them dark and shadowy and scary, the skepticism goes into rejection. So when AIPAC comes and publishes ads like this, and the ADL has done similar stuff, not in terms of campaign funding, but in terms of sort of playing into racist tropes and racist stories about Muslims, about Arabs, about South Asians, etc. These organizations are advancing their political interests by marshaling white supremacy. It's clear as day. It's clear as day. So what are we going to do? That's the question for y'all, family. As we wrap up tonight, that's the question for you. What are we going to do about it? We got under 100 days for this election. Not just the presidential election, but a whole bunch of elections. We have to fight. We have powerful interests out there who are committed to making sure that the status quo is maintained or worsened for the most vulnerable people on our planet. What are we going to do? But let me just say one more thing. We have a reformist alternative in Kamala Harris. You have to make your own political decisions about whether you want a reformist at a moment that demands revolution. You have to ask yourself about that. But what you're not allowed to do, if you're operating in the interest of radical social transformation, is to allow Kamala Harris to go unquestioned, to allow Kamala Harris to go unaccountable. We must ask the tough questions. We must pressure her. We must tell her that we don't give our votes away. And if we do that, now we're getting somewhere. Now we can mount a political strategy. Now we can, mobilize a movement. Other than that, we just a bunch of fans. We just a bunch of fans going someplace that's cool, having fun, cheering, tweeting, and saying we were there to have something fancy for the gram. That's it. And that can't be what we want to do with our lives. That can't be who we want to be as a political community or as a nation or as a generation. We're better than this. Let's show it. Shout out to Kenley George, who just gifted 5 memberships to the channel. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody who has watched tonight. I am so grateful. If you haven't already, before we go, hit that like button. Make that the last thing you do. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button here. If you're on Twitter, jump over to YouTube right now and hit that YouTube subscribe button. After you hit the subscribe button, I want you to also hit the join button. That's right. Go over and hit the join button on the desktop. If you're not at the desktop, look in the description, and there's a link there that will take you to where you need to go, which is where? Joining. You see all these memberships flying around, all these people donating beautiful memberships. Shout out to y'all for your generosity and your appreciation of what I'm trying to do every single night. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Make sure that you hit that join button and become a monthly subscriber to the channel. Subscription is free. Just hit subscribe. It don't cost you a nickel. Liking increases our influence with the algorithm. It lets them know that corporate media ain't the only game in town. Subscribe increases our footprint so that our content reaches more people and that more people have access to all the things we do on this channel. Not just Night School. We also do the Classroom in the Cell podcast with political prisoner Mumia Abu Jamal. We also do Coffee and Books podcast on weekend mornings, Saturday mornings. We also do Office Hours, which is a deep dive intellectual conversation every Sunday evening. We also do Night School. We do so much stuff, and then we do the impromptu stuff, but we do it on the muscle. Kamala Harris talking about she's a people-powered campaign. Well, we're even more people-powered than Kamala Harris because we ain't got no corporate dollars. We don't have no billionaires writing checks. The only thing I have is the strength and the support of the people. So please, if you can, hit the join button and become a monthly subscriber. If you do $3.99 a month, we're grateful. If you do $100 a month, we're grateful. Anything in between, we're just as grateful. But we would love to have the financial stability necessary to move our channel forward. That means getting more voices on the channel. That means more programming on the channel. That means higher quality output on the channel. That means more programs on the channel. That means building a studio so that we can really get busy out here and do the kind of work that y'all want done. I can only do that with your financial support because, again, I don't have a billionaire behind me. I don't have a corporate media outlet underwriting me. This is all on the muscle and strength and love of the people. So please consider joining. And if you can't join because you can't make the monthly commitment, I understand. Or if you just don't know me well enough yet, I understand that. I ain't mad at you. But what I do ask you to do is make a donation right now. You can go to Cash App. You can go to PayPal, you can go to Venmo, or you can go to Zelle. And on any one of those platforms, you can make a donation. If everybody were to give $10 right now, if everybody watching right now were to donate $10 to one of these apps, one of these platforms, we would meet all of our financial goals. It's officially August 1st now. So I'll say, we would be able to meet our financial goals for the month of August if everybody watching right now were to donate $10. That is an absolute fact. I promise you, I swear to God. And if everybody were to donate $10 or we receive the equivalent of that right now, I wouldn't ask y'all for another dollar for another month or two. But Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle, if you can do $10, consider the tuition payment for all the programming we give you. Look at tonight. I gave you an hour and a half of breakdowns and analysis. We do this every night, y'all. We still got the War on Gaza report coming up after this too. 1 hour, 33 minutes. That requires time, it requires talent, and it also requires treasure. I'm talking about mine, not yours. I got to stay up, I got to work, I got to think, and I love doing it for you. But to do it, I need the channel to be financially supported because I don't make a dollar off of this, y'all. I'm not making money on this right now. I hope to one day, but I ain't making no money on this for real, because I'm investing everything back in the channel because we deserve radical media. We deserve independent media. We deserve grassroots media. We deserve Black media. So please consider right now, just pick up your phone and go into Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, or Zelle, or your computer, laptop, whatever, and drop in $10 in. If you can't do $10, if you can only do $1, I promise you, I will be just as grateful. If you decide that $10 isn't enough and you want to do $100 or $1,000, or hey, if you say, look, I'm a millionaire and I want to drop $1 million on the channel so that it can become all it needs to be, look, I'll be your best friend. I'll be grateful. But in between those single dollars and those $1 million are a lot of people who want to give the best they can. And for each of you, whether it's $1 million, 1,000, 100, 10,000, 100,000, or $1 million, I'm grateful to all of you equally because I know all of you are doing the best you can. So please consider donating right now to the channel. And that's kind of it, y'all. But remember, money ain't everything. What good is having a channel like this if you don't engage it? What good is having a channel like this if you don't talk about it? What good is having a channel like this if you don't share it? So hit the like button, hit the share button, share this content across social media, draw people back to the YouTube channel so that they can support themselves. Of course, hit the like button. Of course, hit the subscribe button. Do all that stuff. But technical stuff aside, this is night school. This is a space for deep thinking. This is a space for critical engagement. This is the space to ask all the tough questions. This is the space to ask. There are no dumb questions. Ask anything. This is how you get after things. This is how you get the genealogy of ideas. This is how you meet and confront some of the most controversial or coveted ideas in the world. This is the space where that happens. So yes, engage it deeply, share it, love it, but also study, y'all. Study. That means when I direct you to books, when I direct you to ideas, when I send you the links, read them. Don't take my word for it ever. Instead, I want you to be a critical consumer of knowledge. And the way to be a critical consumer of knowledge is to like, it's to share, it's to watch, but it's also to study. Because at the end of the day, that's what night school is all about. Anyway, family, I love you. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.